Page 92, African Celebration. In this lesson, we're reviewing what retardando is, or RIT for short. Remember, it's just gradually slow down. You'll see it in this piece at the bottom of page 93 in the last three measures. Well, the third two, it's measure 42. I'll get there, give me a moment. There's an RIT, but it applies for the rest of the piece. You just gradually slow down. How much? I don't know, gradually, whatever. Let's go through a system for learning a piece and see what we have here. I look it over, I see it's 2 pages long, treble and bass clef, 4/4 time signature. I see half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, and whole notes. Got them all here. Both hands are playing at the same time, so I'm going to take each hand one at a time first. I want to know what each hand is doing first, and then I'll go by, try and put them together and see what happens. Right hand, when you come in on measure 5, it's thumb on here. And you don't need any other finger numbers until you get to measure 25 when you have to move. Please don't be reading these finger numbers. You should already know which fingers are on these notes. And it's 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Not so much for that. Let's go down to measure 11. 1 and 2. Whole note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. See, that whole note's tied over to a quarter note. So you held it down for 5 counts. Now, at measure 25, you're up here. You're just going up an octave. And you have plenty of rest. You got plenty of time to get up there. When you move is up to you. I usually do it right before. But make sure you're there ready to go when you get to measure 25. And you're basically playing the same thing you did on page 92. You're just playing it up here. The last line at the bottom of page 93, measure 41, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then during the rest, you come down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're done with the right hand. Left hand. Most of this, the left hand is just playing a C and a G. So you're here. Together, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this fun. And after that, you're just whole notes that are usually tied, and so you're holding them down for 8 counts at a time. Let's go down to measure 15, it is. Well, let's start on measure 14 with the whole note. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Okay. You don't move around in the left hand until the last measure at the bottom of page 93. That C has an AV8 under it, remember? So you go down. You go down here. They're saying use third finger. I'm saying I don't care what finger you use. Just use a finger and go down there and play it. There's nothing special about third finger there. It's just, I usually use little finger because it's the closest one to it. Whatever, I don't know. But it's up to you and your teacher as to what finger you use. Put the hands together. Well, starting at measure 5, when they are together, you're here in C position. Left hand's tied. Now you play it again. So much for that. Let's go down to measure, what, 13? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. See, the things are happening at different times. You just very carefully count it out, and you'll find that, like on measure 14, where it's here, then. Just count this out very carefully between the hands. That's pretty much the piece. I mean, we could take a look at the measure 41 and on. If you want to do that, you're here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just count it out very slowly and carefully. Then go back through and get rid of any hesitations anywhere, so it's a steady beat throughout. And then I think about the articulation. That's the slurs, the accents, the staccatos and things. accent at the beginning, you just play a little louder. More weight on it. Let the wrist collapse a little bit. And on this, play this as connected as you can. If you want to put in the phrases, that's fine. I think the phrases are going to the half notes. A half note ends a phrase, and then you'd lift up. So at measure 6, you're here. Then lift up. It's like taking a breath. Now, if you'd like, you can make them 2-measure phrases. It's a personal thing. It's interpretation. If you do that, you lift up every 2 measures, starting at measure 5. It's like every time the left hand is playing, again, it's a phrase. It's like, okay, I'll measure 13 here, staccato. And this right hand connected. Connect all that together. It's all one phrase drawn out. Actually, like a phrase in each hand, they're overlapping slightly. Then measure 17, same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then page 93 is almost the same. The last line on page 93, all of this, connect all this if you can. Connect. Now after that, I think about the dynamics, the louds and softs. They want it loud at the beginning. That makes the accented notes very loud. I don't know about that. To me, that's a little loud. It's too early in the morning for that, but here. Just using a lot of weight. Let the wrist claps each time on these. And now, MP. Mezzo piano or sort of soft. You'll have to decide what that is. That's the melody. That's the right hand. This left hand, all of a sudden, has to go down to soft or softer. So measure 4, you're loud, soft. All of a sudden, because now the right hand takes over at sort of soft. When you get to measure 13, you go up a little bit to mezzo forte, MF, sort of loud. That's the right hand. The left hand, keep it under it. It's sort of mezzo piano on it. Now, as far as interpreting goes, you can probably sort of get away with both hands the same here. Loudness, because it's like they each have the melody kind of talking to each other. So again, at measure 13. And then at measure 21 you're loud again, and then you're moderately loud then on measure 25. This is different than on the other page because the other page you went down to moderately soft. Now you're only going down to moderately loud. You're still loud, sort of. This left hand needs to be in the background. I measure, 34, 33, you go up to loud. Well, I think it's kind of both hands here too. And then measure 41, moderately loud, and then you have the hairpin to gradually, you're going to end it loud. So there's not a lot of difference between moderately loud and loud. You can almost come down to moderately soft, but that may be too soft. Just moderately, both hands. Do it like a measure at a time. Just come up just a hair on each measure. So I'm moderately loud, a little louder, loud, almost very loud on the last note because I keep getting louder. As far as the speed goes, quickly with energy. I definitely need more coffee for that. You'll have to decide what your quickly with energy is. It's just the melody. The melody, how fast do you want that to go, and that's how fast you're going to go. Until you get to the end, the bottom of page 93 with the RIT, then you start slowing down. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Start at measure 41. I'm here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I just keep slowing down now. Now a little bit about the form. Musical form, we haven't talked about it too much. But at the bottom of page 92, they're pointing out the double bar lines. That's a section. That tells you you're leaving one section and going into another. Well, that implies musical form. It's got a shape to it. So let's just discuss that briefly. We'll talk more about it later on. The first 4 measures, there's not a lot going on. It's just setting the harmony and setting the speed and getting you ready. We would call that an introduction. That is a section all in itself. And sometimes the introduction ends with a double bar. Not always, because it doesn't here. But it could have ended with a double bar. But that's the introduction. Then the piece actually starts at measure 5 when the melody starts. Well, then you have section A. That's page 92 once the melody starts, section A. And then on page 93, that's section B. Except you have this interlude, this like the introduction. We wouldn't call it another introduction. You only get one introduction, that's at the beginning. We would call this an interlude. It's just sort of something that sort of happens between the section. It links them together. So I would call it an interlude. And then section B actually starts at measure 25, where you've got the melody. And then a measure 41, that would be called a coda. It's another section. The piece actually ended on measure 40. We're here. We're done. But then this last little bit with these, it's the same rhythm, sort of, as what we've had in the introduction. It's just a tag on the end, an afterthought to the piece. And it's a section in itself, too. And sometimes it's split off with double bars, and sometimes it's not. Like here, it's not. And that's how I would view it. Now, some people might say, well, wait a minute, it's not really an introduction. That first 4 measures at the beginning and the melody, that's all section A. And you can look at it that way. That makes it easier when you look at section B, because that makes it part of section B. Our problem is the bottom of the page. That's different. That's extra. That is a coda. No matter how you view the rest of it, that is still a coda. So I prefer to just look at as an introduction, section A, an interlude, section B, and a coda. That's how different people will analyze these things differently. There's no set, this is the way it's got to be, although some people would tell you that. But a little bit about the form. A lot of times with longer pieces, when you're learning a piece, you can just do it a section at a time. Rather than trying to tackle the whole piece, you just focus on one section and get it pretty good, pretty well. And then go to the next section. Forget the first section, or don't forget it, but set it aside. Focus on the next section and get it, and then the next section and get it. And then when you get those, you go back and put them all together. You will not have forgotten the other sections, even though you may not have practiced them for a while. You'll still be able to play them, more or less. You put it all together and work it out. It's a much more efficient way of practicing than always starting at the beginning and going to the end. Because when you start at the beginning and just go straight through it every time, you won't get all the way through it every time. That's the problem. And you can tell when somebody has practiced a piece that way, listening to them, because the beginning of the piece will be really good. They've got it down. And as they go through the piece, it gradually gets worse and worse and worse until they almost can't play it at all. That's because they haven't practiced the end of it very much. And there's different ways of approaching practicing pieces. We'll talk more about them in other lessons. This lesson's getting long enough. I'm starting to bore me. So let's move on. Pedal. They've added pedal. They've done it for the beginning, what I call the introduction, and the interlude and the coda. You're going to push the notes down. Actually, in this case, you can put the pedal down with the notes because it's really loud. Put the pedal down with the notes. hold it down until you play this. Right after you play the right hand first note, lift it up. After you play the note. I did it as I played the note, or out. You get the idea. Same thing, measure 21. Push the pedal down with the notes, lift it up right after you play the notes in measure 25. And then at the bottom, it's the same thing. Now the last measure. I disagree with the last measure, what they've done. They're showing pedal all the way to the end of the measure. Keep in mind that these pedal indications, the up and down lines, are not necessarily exactly where they go. That's where interpretation comes in. In my mind, I don't want to hear a whole note at the end. Could, I suppose. But we've slowed down, so that half note's going to sound longer than a half note anyway. But I'm going to lift the pedal up with the left hand. So, because they've got the pedal going to the end of the measure, well, I would have the line coming up at the half note. So the last line there, measure 41, is here. It would all come up together after 2 counts. Please don't copy me. With a couple more cups of coffee, I would play this quite differently, I'm sure, because I play by feel, and it's however I'm feeling it at the time. It could be different loudness, it could be a different speed. I could do more with the natural accents. Remember the natural accent? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, the first beat of every measure. At the beginning, they give you an accent, so it doesn't. But on the other measures, 1, 2. Feel these as you go through it. It's part of interpreting the music. So once you can play this pretty well with no hesitations, let's try it together very slowly and check the notes and rhythms. I'm not going to do the louds and softs. I'm just going to play the notes. I'll go ahead and do the pedaling here so you can see, but it's easier to hear the notes without the pedaling. It's just that we don't have a lot of notes going on, so I guess it doesn't matter. I'll give us 4 counts. Let's just play it together slowly. 1, 2, ready, go. 2, 2, 3, 4. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. 3, 4. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.